The transport ship Morning Star drifted through the quiet darkness of space. Inside, 23 children sat in the passenger compartment, most of them looking out the windows at the stars. They were heading to the core worlds to schools that would teach them things their small frontier colony couldn't offer. Some were excited. Others were nervous about leaving home. Sarah Chen, 14 years old, sat with her little brother Tommy in her lap. He was only 5 and didn't really understand why they had to leave Mom and Dad behind. She stroked his hair and pointed at a blue nebula in the distance. "Look, Tommy, isn't it pretty?" The boy nodded, but his eyes were sad. Sarah felt her heart squeeze. She was supposed to be the strong big sister, but she was scared, too. She'd never been away from their colony before. The other children chatted among themselves. Marcus, 12, was showing his friends pictures of the school they'd attend. Little Emma, 6, was crying quietly while her older cousin tried to comfort her. The teenagers tried to act brave for the younger ones, but their voices shook when they talked. Captain Rivera, the ship's pilot, had promised them it was a safe route. Neutral space, he called it. No wars, no pirates, no problems. Just 3 more days and they'd reached the core worlds. That's when the alarm started screaming. The children jumped in their seats. Red lights flashed throughout the compartment. Sarah grabbed Tommy tight as the ship shook violently. Something had hit them. "Everyone stay calm." One of the teachers shouted, but her voice was panicked. "Stay in your seats." Through the windows, the children saw ships approaching. They were ugly vessels covered in mismatched armor plates and weapons. Not military ships, not friendly ships. Sarah's stomach dropped. She'd heard stories about raiders in the frontier. The transport ship shook again. And again. Captain Ria's voice came through the speakers, crackling with static. "This is Transport Morning Star. We are a civilian vessel carrying children. We are unarmed. Please," his voice cut off. The children screamed as their ship lurched sideways. Something was pulling them in. A tractor beam. Maybe. Sarah held Tommy so tight he whimpered. Marcus grabbed the hands of 2 smaller kids near him. The teenagers tried to calm everyone down, but they were terrified, too. The ship stopped moving. Everything went quiet except for the sound of children crying. Then they heard footsteps. Heavy boots on metal floors, voices speaking in a language that wasn't human. The door to their compartment exploded inward, and aliens poured in. Sarah had seen aliens before. The Galactic Council had dozens of species, and some traded with the frontier colonies. But these aliens looked different, mean. They wore armor and carried weapons that hummed with energy. The aliens were tall with blue, gray skin and 4 arms. Their faces had too many eyes, clustered around a mouth full of sharp teeth. They moved quickly, efficiently, like soldiers on a mission. "Secure them all," one alien said in rough English. "The young ones especially. They'll bring the best price." Sarah's blood ran cold. They were going to sell them. The children tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. The aliens grabbed them with their multiple arms, ignoring the screaming and crying. One alien reached for Tommy, and Sarah fought back, kicking and biting. The alien simply picked her up with 2 arms while holding Tommy with the other 2. "Spirited," the alien said, its voice clicking and hissing. "The researchers will enjoy studying this one." They were dragged out of the Morning Star and forced through a connecting tube into the alien ship. Sarah looked back and saw Captain Rivera slumped over his controls, unconscious or worse. The two teachers were being held by more aliens. Everything was happening so fast. The alien ship was cold and dark. The children were pushed down corridors that smelled like chemicals and something rotten. They were terrified, holding on to each other, some too scared to even cry anymore. Finally, they reached a large room filled with cages. Not rooms, not cells, cages. Metal bars surrounded by flickering energy fields like animals were kept in. "No," Sarah whispered. "No, please." The aliens didn't listen. They shoved children into different cages, separating them into groups. Sarah fought to keep Tommy with her and the aliens allowed it, throwing them both into the same cage. Marcus ended up in the cage next to theirs with three younger kids clinging to him. The energy fields hummed to life, sealing them in. Sarah immediately ran to the bars and pulled at them. A shock of electricity threw her backward. Tommy screamed. "Don't touch the bars!" Marcus shouted from his cage. "They're electrified or something." All around them, the other children were crying, calling for their parents, begging to go home. The sound was horrible. Sarah had never heard anything so heartbreaking. She gathered Tommy in her arms and rocked him, trying to be brave, even though tears ran down her face. The alien stood outside the cages, observing them. One alien, taller than the others and wearing a long coat, stepped forward. It carried a tablet and was taking notes. "Fascinating," it said. In English. "Juvenile humans. They're smaller than I expected and very loud." "Dr. Vexith," another alien said, "are you sure about this? They're from Earth. The humans are new to the Council. What if nothing?" Dr. Vexith interrupted. "The humans are weak. They have no real military power. They're barely past their own solar system. And these are just children. The Galactic Council barely cares about adult humans. Who's going to miss a few younglings?" Sarah's hands clenched into fists. She wanted to scream at them, but she forced herself to stay quiet. She needed to think. There had to be a way out. Dr. Vexith moved from cage to cage, shining lights in the children's eyes. Making notes, treating them like laboratory animals. When it reached Sarah's cage, it stared at her for a long moment. "This one has fight in her," it said. "Good. I want to test their stress responses. Human emotions are said to be quite extreme. What are you going to do to us?" Sarah asked, her voice shaking but angry. Dr. Vexith tilted its head. "Study you. You're a new species to the galaxy. There is much we don't know about human biology, human behavior, human breaking points. Your kind will help us understand how to control humans when the time comes." "You're monsters," Sarah spat. The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "We're scientists and you're specimens now. The sooner you accept that, the easier this will be." Dr. Vexith walked away, still making notes. Other aliens began setting up equipment. Around the cages, cameras, sensors, machines that beeped in word. They were preparing to study the children like they were animals in a zoo. Tommy had his face buried in Sarah's shirt. She could feel him shaking around them. The other children were in various states of panic. Little Emma was screaming for her mother. Marcus was trying to organize the kids in his cage, keeping them together in the center away from the bars. "Listen to me," Sarah called out softly to the other cages. "Everyone. Listen." Some of the children looked at her. Their faces were red from crying. Their eyes wide with fear. "We have to stay calm," Sarah said, trying to sound confident. "Our parents will come for us. Earth will come for us. We just have to stay alive until then." "How do you know?" a boy asked from another cage. "We're so far from home. How will they even find us?" Sarah didn't have an answer for that. But she remembered something her father, a colonial defense officer, had told her once. Because humans don't leave their children behind ever. They'll come. We just have to believe that. Marcus nodded from his cage. "Sarah's right. My dad always said the fleet would move heaven and earth for civilians. We just have to hold on." The children wanted to believe. Sarah could see it in their faces, but they were so young, so scared. And the aliens kept setting up their equipment. Preparing their experiments. Sarah looked down at Tommy. He'd finally cried himself to sleep in her arms. She kissed the top of his head and made a promise to herself. She would keep him safe. She would keep all of them safe as much as she could until help came. If help came. One of the aliens, a younger one that seemed nervous, approached Dr. Fexith. "Sir, I need to ask again. Are you certain this is wise? Taking human juveniles? I've heard stories from other species about humans and their young. They're said to be very protective." Dr. Vexith waved a dismissive hand. "Stories? Exaggerations. Look at them. They're tiny, weak, crying. What can the humans possibly do to us? We're in neutral space on a hidden station. Even if they find out what happened, it will take them weeks to get diplomatic approval to act. By then, we'll have our data and these specimens will be sold off to private collectors. The humans will file a complaint. The council will offer condolences, and life will go on." The nervous alien didn't look convinced, but it nodded and returned to its work. Sarah had been listening carefully. Specimens, collectors. Her stomach turned. They weren't planning to ever let them go. They were going to study them, then sell them like property. She needed to do something. But what? She was 14 years old, trapped in an energy cage, surrounded by armed aliens on a hidden space station. Her communication device had been taken. Everything had been taken. Wait. Sarah remembered the emergency beacon her father had given her. It was hidden in a small compartment in her shoe, disguised as part of the soul. It was supposed to be for extreme emergencies only. It would send out a signal that Earth's defense network could track, but only for a few seconds before burning out. Her father had made her promise to only use it if her life was in danger. This counted, moving slowly so the aliens wouldn't notice. Sarah reached down and carefully worked at her shoe. Tommy was still asleep, giving her cover. Her fingers found the small compartment and pulled out the tiny beacon. It was no bigger than a coin. She glanced around. The aliens were busy with their equipment, not watching the cages closely. Dr. Fexith was on the other side of the room. This was her chance. Sarah pressed the activation button and felt the beacon pulse once in her hand. It was done. The signal was sent. She quickly crushed it and let the pieces fall through the cage bars where they'd hopefully go unnoticed. "Please let them hear it," she whispered. "Please let them come." In another cage, Marcus caught her eye. He mouthed the words, "What did you do?" Sarah mouthed back, "Help is coming." She hoped she was right. The aliens continued their preparations. Dr. Vexeth announced that experiments would begin in the morning once the children had acclimated to captivity. The lights in the room dimmed to simulate night. The children huddled together in their cages. Some were still crying. Others had gone silent, staring at nothing. Sarah held Tommy and tried to sing him a lullaby their mother used to sing. Her voice cracked, but she kept singing. Other children joined in softly. It was a human song about home and safety and love. The aliens paused their work to listen, their expressions confused. They didn't understand why the humans were singing. They didn't understand what music meant to humans. Comfort, connection, hope. The song ended and the room fell quiet again. Sarah looked up at the ceiling, imagining she could see through the station's walls to the stars beyond. Somewhere out there was Earth, was home, was family. Come for us, she whispered to the darkness. Please come for us. Somewhere in the station, in a room filled with monitoring equipment, an alien technician noticed a brief energy spike, a signal of some kind lasting only a few seconds. The technician almost reported it, then decided it was probably nothing, just interference from the station systems. The technician deleted the anomaly from the log and went back to work. That decision would change everything. The emergency beacon signal reached Earth 17 hours after Sarah activated it. It traveled through subspace, bouncing through relay stations until it pinged a military satellite orbiting Mars. The satellite immediately flagged it as a priority alert and sent it to Solar Defense Command. Lieutenant Commander James Park was on night watch when the alert came through. He'd been drinking coffee and reviewing routine patrol reports bored out of his mind. The sudden alarm made him spill his coffee all over his desk. What the hell? He muttered, pulling up the alert. His blood went cold when he saw the details. Emergency beacon. Transport ship Morning Star. Last known location in neutral space near the Krillian sector. Beacon activated then. Went dead. The Morning Star. Park knew that ship. His mind raced through the fleet database. Civilian transport. Scheduled route to core worlds. Passenger manifest. He opened the manifest and felt his stomach drop. 23 children ages 5 to 14. Colony evacuation. For education purposes. Oh God, he whispered. Oh no. His hands were shaking as he hit the emergency communication button. This is Lieutenant Commander Park. I need Admiral Chen immediately. I don't care if she's asleep. Wake her up now. 3 minutes later, Fleet Admiral Catherine Chen's face appeared on his screen. She was in her quarters, hair loose, wearing a simple shirt instead of her uniform. Her eyes were sharp despite being woken up. This better be important, Commander. Admiral, we have a situation. Park sent her the data. Transport Morning Star went dark 19 hours ago. Emergency beacon just activated in Krillian space, then died. Ma'am, there were children on that ship. He watched Chen's expression change as she read the report. Her jaw tightened, her eyes went cold. Get me everything, she said. Quietly. Every scan, every communication, every piece of data we have on that region. Contact the ships. Families. And wake up Admiral Rodriguez, General Thompson, and Ambassador Lowe. Meeting in my office in 30 minutes. We're going to DEFCON 2, ma'am. DEFCON 2 for a missing transport. Chen's voice could have frozen fire. Those are our children, Commander. Our species' children. Tell me, do you have kids? Yes, ma'am. 2 daughters. Then you understand. 30 minutes move. The screen went dark. Park sat there for a moment, his heart pounding. DEFCON 2 meant the military was preparing for war for 23 kids. But as he thought about his own daughters asleep in their beds, he understood completely. He started making calls. Within the hour, Solar Defense Command was lit up like Christmas. Every station was manned. Officers were being called back from leave. Ships and dock were being prepped for immediate deployment. The entire command structure was mobilizing with a speed that surprised even the veterans. Admiral Chen stood in her office, now in full uniform, staring at the star map on her wall. The Krillian sector was highlighted in red. Neutral space technically, not controlled by any major power. A place where things happened that the Galactic Council preferred to ignore. Ambassador Lu arrived first. She was a small woman, barely 5 foot tall, but she had negotiated humanity's entrance into the Galactic Council almost single-handedly. She took one look at Chen's face and knew something terrible had happened. Catherine, what is it? 23 children. Taken. We think it's the Krillians. Lu's face went pale. Taken? You mean kidnapped? Captured? Whatever you want to call it. They were on a civilian transport heading to school. The ship disappeared. We got one emergency beacon signal, then nothing. Lu sat down heavily. Do the Krillians understand what they've done? I don't think they have any idea, Chen said grimly. How could they? Most of the species in the council barely acknowledge their offspring. They lay eggs and walk away. Or they birth them fully grown, or they reproduce by butting. They don't understand what human children mean to us. We need to make them understand fast. Leo was already pulling up her communication device. I need to contact the council immediately. They need to authorize a rescue mission. Admiral Rodriguez and General Thompson arrived together. Rodriguez was Navy in charge of the fleet. Thompson was Marines in charge of ground operations. Both men looked angry enough to bite through steel. Tell me we're going after them, Rodriguez said without preamble. We're going after them, Chen confirmed. But we need to find them first. Intelligence is working on it now. The beacon gave us a location, but it's approximate. That whole sector is full of hidden stations and asteroid bases. The Krillians could be anywhere. How long do we have? Thompson asked. Before something happens. No one wanted to say what they were all thinking. What the aliens might do to human children. Study them, hurt them, worse. We don't know, Chen admitted. But we're not waiting for diplomatic approval. Ambassador Lo will try to get the council's blessing, but whether she does or not, we're moving. I'm assembling 3 battle groups. Rodriguez, I want your best ships. Thompson, I want special forces ready for extraction. Full gear, full authorization. What about rules of engagement? Rodriguez asked carefully. Chen's expression was stone. Rescue the children. Neutralize any threat. I don't care about the rest. If someone points a weapon at our people or those kids and them. Leo looked uncomfortable. Catherine, that's going to cause a diplomatic incident. The Galactic Council has rules about military action in neutral space. Then they should have had rules about kidnapping children. Chen snapped. Then she took a breath, calming herself. I'm sorry, Ambassador. I know you have a job to do. Do it. Try to get us authorization, but those are human children out there, scared and alone. I'm not leaving them there 1 second longer than necessary. Council approval or not? Lou nodded slowly. I understand. I'll do what I can. But Catherine, the galaxy isn't going to understand why we're reacting this strongly. To them, offspring are just replaceable. Then they're going to learn something new about humans today, Thompson said. Darkly. Lou left to make her calls to the Galactic Council. The military officers stayed, planning their operation. Within hours, every intelligence asset humanity had in space was focused on finding the children. Spy satellites redirected. Informants contacted, listening posts on high alert. The families were contacted next. That was the hardest part. Admiral Chen insisted on being present for every call. She owed them that much. Sarah's parents were colonial defense officers themselves. They took the news with military discipline, but Chen could see the terror in their eyes. Sarah's father, Commander Marcus Chen, requested immediate transfer to the rescue fleet. Request denied. Too personal, he argued. She stood firm. He finally broke down and begged her to bring his children home. I will, Chen promised. I will bring them all home. You have my word. She made that promise 23 times that night to 23 sets of parents. Each call was harder than the last. By morning, the news had leaked. It always did. The media exploded. Every human colony, every station, every settlement in space heard the story. 23 children taken by aliens held somewhere in the dark. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. The human population across the solar system and beyond erupted in fury. Protests formed outside alien embassies. Human workers walked off jobs with alien employers. Trade ships refused to unload cargo. It was spontaneous and universal. Humans everywhere stopped what they were doing and demanded action. The Galactic Council tried to calm things down. Ambassador Lo was called before the full council to explain what was happening. The council chambers were massive, designed to hold representatives from hundreds of species. Ambassador Lo stood at the center podium, looking up at the tiers of alien representatives. Most looked confused. Some looked annoyed. Counselor Thrick, a mantis-like alien who served as council speaker, addressed her first. Ambassador Lo, please explain the overreaction we're seeing from your species. A transport vessel has gone missing. This is unfortunate, but it happens. Why has your military mobilized? Why are your people riding? Leo took a deep breath. Because there were children on that transport, counselor. 23 human children. Thrick tilted his triangular head. Yes. We understand. Juvenile humans. But surely your species produces more offspring. Why this extreme response? There was agreement from other council members. Lou realized with growing horror that they genuinely didn't understand. To them, losing a few young was barely worth noting. Counselor. Perhaps I haven't explained human reproduction clearly enough in past sessions, Lou said carefully. Humans invest enormous resources into our offspring. Our children are completely helpless at birth. They cannot walk, cannot feed themselves, cannot survive without constant care. It takes years, many years before they can function independently. Yes, we know your young are useless for an extended period, another counselor said dismissively. Most species go through juvenile stages, but they grow out of it. Why does it matter? If you lose a few. Lou felt her own anger rising. Because we don't just grow them, counselor. We love them from the moment they're born. We bond with them. We protect them with our lives. Human. Evolution made us this way. We're one of the few species that has what you might call extreme parental investment. Our children are precious to us. All of them. Every single one. But they're not. Even your children, Thrick pointed out. They're children of other humans. Why do you care? Because they're human children, Lou said, her voice rising. Any human child in danger triggers this response in us. It's biological. It's cultural. It's who we are as a species. We protect our young, all our young. Violently, if necessary, a reptilian counselor spoke up violently. Are you threatening military action in neutral space? That violates at least 6 council regulations. I'm not threatening anything, counselor. I'm trying to make you understand what's about to happen. My government has mobilized 3 battle groups. They're going to find those children and bring them home. If the Krillians resist, there will be violence. And my people won't stop until every child is safe. The council chamber erupted in noise. Counselors talking over each other. Some demanding Earth be sanctioned, others calling for calm. A few, just a few, looking thoughtful. An old counselor from a species Lou didn't recognize raised a tentacle for silence. When the chamber quieted, it spoke in a creaky voice. I am Valerian. My species has been part of the council for 6,000 years. I've seen many species come and go. I remember one species long ago that had similar instincts about their young. Protectiveness, aggression when their offspring were threatened. What happened to them? Thrick asked. They became one of the most feared species in the galaxy, the Valerian said. Not because they were the strongest or the most advanced, but because everyone learned, never ever threaten their children. Those who did learn the hard way. The humans call it scorched earth. When a species fights with such desperation that they'll destroy everything, including themselves, to achieve their goal. Ambassador Lowe is trying to warn us. The humans have been triggered. They will not stop. That's barbaric, Thrick said. That's evolution, the Valerian corrected. Species that protected their young successfully passed on their genes. Species that didn't died out. The humans survived. They evolved. And now they're here in our council. When someone has made a terrible mistake. Lou nodded gratefully at the old counselor. Please council, give us authorization to conduct a rescue operation. Help us find these children before this situation escalates. We don't want war. We just want our children back. The council debated for hours. Back on Earth, the military wasn't waiting. Intelligence had finally found something. A Krillian informant motivated by a very large sum of human currency and some implied threats had given up a location, a hidden station in an asteroid field, known Krillian territory. Admiral Chen looked at the data and made her decision. That's where they are. I can feel it. Rodriguez prepped the fleet. Thompson, get your people ready. We're going in. What about council approval? Someone asked. Chen's smile was cold. What about it? We're leaving in 4 hours with or without their blessing. Those children have been missing for almost 48 hours. That's 48 hours too long. Across human space, the mobilization continued. It wasn't just military. Civilian ships were volunteering to help search. Merchant marines were offering their vessels. Even colony defense forces were requesting permission to join the rescue. It was unprecedented. Humanity barely 50 years into space travel, was unifying with a singular purpose. Get the children back. The Krillian Syndicate, unaware of what was coming, continued with their plans. Dr. Vexith was preparing the first round of experiments on the human juveniles. The station's defense forces were on normal alert. They'd done this kind of thing before, grabbed specimens, studied them, sold them off. It was routine. No one had ever come looking. Why would the humans be different? They were about to find out. The human fleet arrived in silence. 3 battle groups, 47 ships. In total, dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the asteroid field. They didn't announce themselves. They didn't broadcast warnings. They simply appeared like ghosts in the darkness. On the bridge of the flagship Resolute, Admiral Chen stood with her hands clasped behind her back, staring at the view screen. The asteroid field stretched out before them. Countless rocks tumbling slowly through space. Somewhere in there was the Krillian station. Somewhere in there were the children. Status report, she said calmly. Sensors are scanning the field. The tactical officer reported. We're picking up power signatures. Multiple sources. At least one large structure hidden among the asteroids. That has to be the station, ma'am. Any defense forces? Negative so far. Wait. The officer leaned forward. Contact 6. Ship's Krillian design moving to intercept. They're hailing us. Put them through. A Krillian face appeared on the view screen. It had 4 eyes and too many teeth. It looked annoyed rather than worried. Human vessels, you are in Krillian territorial space. State your business or depart immediately. Chen stepped forward. Her voice was cold. Enough to freeze hydrogen. This is Fleet Admiral Catherine Chen of Earth's Solar Defense Force. You are holding 23 human children on that station. Return them immediately unharmed and we will leave peacefully. You have 5 minutes to comply. The Krillian's expression shifted from annoyance to confusion. Children, we don't know what you're talking about. This is neutral space. You have no authority here. 4 minutes 30 seconds, Chen said flatly. You can't threaten us. We're protected under Galactic Council. 4 minutes. Chen interrupted. I suggest you use this time wisely. Contact your station. Bring those children to the docking bay. Release them to us or face the consequences. The Krillian laughed. Actually laughed. You think we're afraid of you? You're barely a space-faring species. You have no power here. Leave. Now or we'll force you to leave. Chen's jaw tightened. 3 minutes 30 seconds. Choose carefully. The communication cut off. The Krillian ships began moving into an attack formation. Chen watched them, her expression unchanging. Admiral, Rodriguez said quietly from her side. They're not going to comply. I know, Chen said. Commander Thompson. Are your teams ready? In the hangar bay, Marine Commander Jackson Thompson stood with 60 of the best special forces operators humanity had ever produced. They were checking weapons, testing equipment, running through final briefings. These were the men and women who inserted into hostile territory when things went wrong. Who rescued hostages. Who completed impossible missions. Thompson spoke into his comm teams. Are ready, Admiral. Give us the word. Stand by, Jen replied. 2 minutes remaining. On the station, Dr. Vexith was in the laboratory reviewing data from the first night's observations of the human children. They were fascinating. Specimens. High emotional responses, strong social bonding. The way they comforted each other was almost primitive, but interesting. An alarm started blaring. Vexith looked up. Annoyed. What's that? A nervous technician ran in. Sir, there are human warships outside the asteroid field. A lot of them. They're demanding we release the specimens. Vexith's 4 eyes blinked in surprise. Human warships? How did they even find us? And why would they? Understanding dawned. They came for the juveniles. That's ridiculous. We're in neutral space. They can't touch us, sir. They gave us a deadline. 5 minutes to release the humans. Beaksith checked the time. How long ago was that? 3 minutes ago, sir. Then we have 2 minutes. Get the station. Commander. Tell him to activate all defense systems. The humans are bluffing. They won't risk damaging the station with their own young inside. The technician didn't look convinced, but he ran to deliver the message. Vexith turned back to his research. The humans would file a complaint with the council. There would be negotiations. Eventually, there would be a settlement, probably financial, but by then, Vexith would have his data. Everything would work out. He had no idea how wrong he was. On the Resolute, Chen watched the countdown. Timer. 60 seconds, 30 seconds, 10. The Krillian ships opened fire. Plasma bolts and missiles streaked toward the human fleet. They impacted against shields that flickered but held. Not a single human ship was damaged. The Krillian weapons were decades out of date, meant to scare off pirates and small freighters. Against modern military shields, they were barely an inconvenience. Chen's expression didn't change. Return fire disabled their vessels. I want prisoners for questioning. The human response was surgical. Targeted laser fire struck the Krillian ship's engines and weapon systems. Within 30 seconds, all 6 ships were drifting powerless. Not destroyed, not killed, just stopped. Sir, the tactical officer said with surprise. They didn't even scratch our shields. They weren't supposed to be fighting a military. Chen said. Thompson, you're clear. Go get our children. Copy that. Launching. Now. 6 stealth shuttles dropped from the human ships. They moved fast and quiet, slipping through the asteroid field toward the station. The Krillian sensors designed to detect large vessels never saw them coming. Inside the shuttles, the Special Forces teams were focused. Each operator knew their job. Building schematics had been uploaded to their helmets. Hostage locations were marked. Threat assessment was complete. This was what they trained for. Thompson spoke over the team channel. Remember, primary objective is the children. Get them out safe. Everything else is secondary. Rules of engagement are weapons free. Anyone who points a gun at you or the kids gets dropped. No warnings. We clear. 60 voices responded as one. Clear, sir. The shuttles reached the station's hull, cutting torches activated, slicing through metal like it was paper. The teams poured in, moving through corridors with practiced efficiency. They'd memorized the layout, every turn, every room. They knew exactly where they were going. The Krillians stationed inside barely had time to react. Armored humans appeared out of nowhere, moving with impossible speed. Those who reached for weapons were put down with precise shots. Those who raised their hands were zip-tied and left behind. The humans didn't slow down, didn't stop. They moved like a force of nature. On the station, alarms were screaming. Dr. Vexith finally understood that something had gone very, very wrong. He ran toward the laboratory where the children were held, but his path was blocked by his own station security personnel running the other direction. "What's happening?" he demanded. "The humans are inside. They teleported right through our shield somehow. They're everywhere." Vexit's legs nearly gave out. "Inside? How? That's impossible." But it wasn't impossible. The human military had tech that most of the galaxy didn't know about. Couldn't imagine things humanity had developed in isolation before joining the Galactic Council, and they just revealed one of their secrets because nothing mattered except getting those children back. In the cage room, Sarah heard the alarms. She sat up, hope and fear warring in her chest. Tommy woke up confused. All the children were stirring, looking around. "What's happening?" Marcus called from his cage. "I don't know," Sarah said. But some things, the door exploded inward, not unlocked, not opened, exploded. And through the smoke came figures in black armor carrying weapons moving with terrifying purpose. For a heartbeat, Sarah was more scared than before. Then she saw the flags on their shoulders. Human flags. Earth flags. "We're here for the children." One of the armored figures shouted, "Everyone stay calm. We're taking you home." The children erupted in screams. Not fear this time. Relief. Joy, they were saved. Sarah burst into tears, clutching Tommy so hard he squeaked. Around them, the other children were crying, laughing, calling out. The operators moved quickly. One team secured the room. Weapons aimed at the doorways. Another team worked on the cages. The energy fields flickered and died as human tech overrode the Krillian systems. The cage doors swung open. Thompson entered the room, scanning the children. They looked terrified, but unharmed. "Thank God. Medical teams, get in here. I want every child checked. Right now." Combat medics rushed in carrying supplies. They knelt beside the children, speaking softly, checking for injuries. The children clung to them, crying, asking questions, begging to go home. Sarah found herself facing a tall operator with kind eyes visible through his helmet visor. "Are you okay, sweetheart? Did they hurt you?" "We're okay," Sarah managed through her tears. "They were going to do experiments on us. But you came. You actually came." "Of course we came," the operator said gently. "We'll always come always." "Can you walk? We need to get you to the shuttles." "I can walk." Sarah looked at Tommy. "But my brother, I've got him." The operator lifted Tommy easily, cradling him like he weighed nothing. "Let's go home." The teams began evacuating the children. They moved in a protective formation. Operators on all sides, weapons ready. Every corridor they passed through had been cleared. Every Krillin who had tried to interfere was on the ground, unconscious or worse. Dr. Vexith finally made it to the laboratory. He arrived just in time to see the last of the human children being carried away by armored soldiers. He ran forward, shouting, "Stop. Those are research specimens. You can't." An operator turned and pointed a weapon at him. Vexith froze. The human spoke, voice amplified by the helmet speaker. "You want to finish that sentence?" Please give me a reason. Beaksif looked into that visor and saw death waiting. He very slowly raised his hands. You were just what? Studying. Children. Running experiments. Keeping them in cages. The operator's voice was cold with fury. On your knees now, Vexith dropped. Other Krillians in the room did the same. The human operator zip-tied them all, then moved on, following their teams toward the docking bay. On the Resolute, Chen watched the operation through the live feeds. The children were being loaded onto the shuttles. All 23, all alive, she allowed herself a small breath of relief. They'd made it. The children were safe. Admiral, the sensor officer said urgently. Multiple contacts jumping in. It's the Krillian Defense Fleet. 24. Ships moving into attack formation. Chen turned to look at the view screen. More Krillian ships were appearing, surrounding the human vessels. They were bigger than the first group. Military vessels, not just patrol craft. This was their actual fleet. A communication came through. A Krillian commander, all four eyes blazing with anger. Human vessels. You have violated neutral space and attacked Krillian assets. Surrender immediately or shuttles away. Thompson. Reported over the comm we have all 23 children. They're safe, Chen smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. She turned back to the Krillian commander. Or what? She asked softly. The Krillian commander blinked, confused by her tone. Or we will open fire. You're outnumbered. You cannot. One of the Krillian ships fired, possibly by accident, possibly because a gunner got nervous. It didn't matter. The missile struck a human destroyer. The shields flickered, absorbed the impact, and held. Not even a dent. The bridge went silent. Chen's smile vanished. Her voice dropped to barely above a whisper, but every person on the bridge heard it clearly. Wrong choice. She turned to Rodriguez. Destroy them. All of them. Rodriguez hesitated for only a second. All of them, Admiral. They fired on us. They held our children. They made their choice. Send them a message the entire galaxy will hear. Open fire. The human fleet opened fire. It was like comparing a thunderstorm to a candle. Decades of human military development hidden from the galaxy unleashed in fury. Advanced rail guns, precision lasers, missiles. With AI guidance systems. Weapons the Galactic Council didn't know humans possessed. The Krillian ships didn't stand a chance. Their shields collapsed under the first volley. Their armor melted under sustained laser fire. Their ships broke apart, spinning into the asteroids. Within 3 minutes, the entire Krillian defense fleet was gone. Not damaged, not disabled, gone. The few escape pods that launched were allowed to drift. Chen wasn't interested in killing helpless survivors, but the ships themselves were obliterated. The station's defenses were destroyed. When the smoke cleared, the Krillian forces were finished. In the shuttles, the children felt the ship shake as the fleet fired. Sarah held Tommy close, her eyes closed. The operators around them stayed calm, speaking softly, keeping the children distracted. But Sarah could hear it. The sound of weapons firing. The sound of war. Is it over? Tommy whispered. The operator holding him nodded. Almost, buddy. Almost. Just a little longer and we'll be home. The shuttles docked with the Resolute. As soon as the airlock opened, medical teams rushed in. The children were carried or led to the medical bay where doctors and nurses were waiting. There were hugs, tears, relief. Admiral Chen came down to the medical bay herself. She walked among the children, speaking softly to each one, making sure they were okay. When she reached Sarah, she knelt down to eye level. "You're Sarah Chen?" "Yes, Commander Chen's daughter." Sarah nodded, unable to speak. Chen smiled, truly smiled this time. "Your father is waiting for a comm link. Want to call him?" Sarah nodded again. Chen handed her a personal comm device. Sarah's hands shook as she activated it. Her father's face appeared on the screen and he was crying. Her mother was beside him, tears streaming down her face. "Sarah, Tommy. Oh, God. You're okay. You're both okay. We're okay, Dad." Sarah managed. "The military came. They saved us. They destroyed everything to save us. I know, sweetheart. I know. I'm so proud of you. You were so brave, both of you. Well, see you soon. Real soon. I promise." The call ended. Sarah looked up at Admiral Chen. "Thank you. Thank you for coming for us." Chen's expression was fierce with emotion. "We will always come. Always remember that. Humanity doesn't leave its children behind. Not ever." Around the medical bay, similar scenes played out. Children calling home. Families weeping with relief. Medics checking everyone over, treating minor injuries, offering comfort outside in the debris field that had once been a Krillian fleet. Escape pods transmitted desperate messages. And Chen let them. Let them tell the galaxy what had happened. Let them warn everyone who would listen. Touch human children, and humanity will burn down the stars to get them back. The Galactic Council chambers had never been so chaotic. Representatives from 300 species were all trying to talk at once. Some were shouting, others were making threatening gestures. A few had walked out entirely. The whole galaxy was reacting to what the humans had done. Counselor Thrick, the mantis-like council speaker, was banging his gavel repeatedly, trying to restore order. His translator was struggling to keep up with all the different languages being shouted. "Order. We must have order." Ambassador Lu stood at the center podium, looking small and tired. She'd been standing there for 4 hours. Defending humanity's actions. The aliens weren't making it easy. 74 ships destroyed, a reptilian counselor hissed. Over 3,000 Krillian casualties, billions in property damage, all for 23 juveniles. This is madness. It was self-defense, Lu said for what felt like the 100th time. The Krillian fleet fired first. Admiral Chen gave them multiple opportunities to surrender peacefully. After you invaded neutral space, another counselor shouted. After you attacked a civilian station, you're trying to justify war crimes. Lu's exhaustion was turning into anger. She'd been patient. She'd been diplomatic. But these aliens still didn't understand, and her patience was wearing thin. War crimes, she said, her voice rising. You want to talk about crimes? Let's talk about kidnapping children. Let's talk about caging them like animals. Let's talk about the experiments Dr. Vexith was planning to run on them. Those children were going to be sold like property, and you're calling us criminals. They're just offspring. The reptilian counselor said dismissively. Your species produces more. What's the issue? Lu stepped forward, her hands clenched. The issue is that you don't understand what children are to humans. You keep calling them offspring or juveniles like they're incomplete adults. That's not what they are to us. Then what are they? Frick asked, genuinely confused. Lu took a breath. This was it. She needed to make them understand. Really understand. Or humanity would never be safe in the galaxy. Human children are our future, she began. But they're more than that. From the moment a human child is born, we love them. Not because of what they'll become, but because of what they are right now. We form bonds with them that don't break. Ever. A human parent would die for their child without hesitation, would kill for their child without remorse. But these weren't your children, a counselor pointed out. They weren't the military personnel's children. They were random juveniles. From various families. That doesn't matter, Lu said intensely. To humans, all children are our children. When we see a child in danger, any child, every protective instinct we have activates. It's not logical. It's not practical. It's biological. It's cultural. It's fundamental to who we are as a species. She pulled up images on the main display. Pictures of the children in the cages looking terrified. The council chamber went quiet. Some of the aliens looked at the images with curiosity. Others looked uncomfortable. Look at them. Lu said. Really look. See how they're holding each other. That's bonding behavior. See the tears. That's fear response. Human children are completely helpless. They can't defend themselves. They can't survive alone. They depend on adults, on all adults to protect them. And human adults are hardwired to respond to that need. This is a weakness, the reptilian counselor declared. If you can be manipulated by images of young, it's not a weakness. An old voice interrupted. It's a strength. Everyone turned. The ancient Valen was rising from its seat, moving slowly on tentacles that had seen millennia. The chamber fell silent out of respect. The Valurans were one of the oldest species in the council, and their wisdom was legendary. I spoke before about a species I encountered long ago. The Valyrian said, they protected their young with ferocity. Do you know what happened to those who tried to harm their offspring? Silence, the Valyrian continued. They were destroyed utterly. Not defeated in battle. Destroyed. The parent species would pursue vengeance across star systems. They would sacrifice their own lives to ensure their young survived. They didn't negotiate. They didn't compromise. They simply acted with the full force of their being to protect their children. What species was this? Fricks asked. Quietly. They're gone now, extinct. But not because they were weak. They thrived. For millions of years precisely because they protected their young so effectively. They only died out when their sun went supernova. But everyone in the galaxy at that time knew you didn't touch their children ever. The Valyrian turned its many eyes toward Lu. Ambassador, humanity has that same instinct. Counselor thricked you what your children are. Let me tell you what. They are from an outside perspective. Your children are your species' survival mechanism. Your willingness to die for them, to kill for them, to burn down the galaxy for them. That's not madness. That's evolution working exactly as intended. But the response was disproportionate. A bird-like counselor argued. Thousands dead for 23 young. How can that be justified? Lu stepped forward again. Let me explain human mathematics. It's very simple. If you threaten one human child, humanity will come for you. If you threaten 10 human children, humanity will come for you 10 times as hard. If you threaten 23 human children, humanity will make an example of you that the entire galaxy will remember for generations. That's not disproportionate to us. That's exactly proportionate. You're saying humans will always respond with overwhelming force? Frick asked. I'm saying humans will always respond with whatever force is necessary. Lu corrected. Admiral Chen gave the Krillians 5 minutes to return the children peacefully. They refused. They fired on us. They made their choice. And now the whole galaxy knows what happens when you harm human children. This is barbaric, someone muttered. No, the Valyrian said. This is honest. Humans are telling you clearly and directly what their boundaries are. Most species hide their true capabilities. Humans just revealed tech you didn't know they had. Destroyed a fleet in 3 minutes and extracted hostages from a fortified station with 0 casualties. They did all of this to send a message. I suggest we listen to that message. Lu nodded gratefully. We didn't want this. We tried diplomatic channels first. We asked for help, but our children were in danger and we couldn't wait. Wouldn't wait. Every hour those children spent in those cages was an hour too long. What about the Krillian survivors? Frick asked. What happens to them? The ones who directly participated in the kidnapping and experimentation will be tried under human law. Lu said flatly. The others will be released once we're satisfied they had no knowledge of the crimes. But Dr. Vexith and his team, they're going to human prisons for a very long time. You can't take council species as prisoners. The reptilian counselor protested. We already have, Lu said coldly. They kidnapped our children. They're coming to trial. If the council has a problem with that, we can discuss it. But those criminals are not being released. The chamber erupted in argument again. Some species supported humanity's position. Others were outraged. A few were starting to understand that humanity wasn't going to back down. No matter what the council said, Frick finally restored order. The council will need to review this matter in detail. Ambassador Lu. Humanity's actions have created a significant diplomatic incident. There will be consequences. I understand, Lu said. But those consequences will be worth it if it means our children are safe. If it means every species in this galaxy knows that human children are untouchable. We'll pay whatever political price is necessary for that. Even if it means sanctions, trade embargoes. Lu smiled, and it was not a nice smile. Counselor, do you know what happens when you sanction humans? We adapt. We innovate. We become self-sufficient. Do you know what happens when you threaten human children? We mobilize. We unify. We become dangerous. I'll let you decide which scenario you prefer. Frick was silent for a long moment. Then he said, this session is adjourned. We will reconvene tomorrow to discuss appropriate responses. Ambassador Lu, you're dismissed. Lu bowed and left the chamber. Outside, she found her aide waiting with a secure communication device. Admiral Chen is calling, the aide said. Lu took the device. Chen's face appeared and she was smiling. A real smile, not the cold expression she'd worn during the battle. How are the Children? Leo asked immediately. Good, better than expected, actually. Medical. Says they're remarkably resilient. A few nightmares, some anxiety, but no serious trauma. They're with their families now. Every single one of them got to go home. Leo felt tears in her eyes. She'd been so focused on defending humanity's actions, she'd almost forgotten the most important part. The children were safe. They were home. That's good, she said quietly. That's so good. How did it go? With the council? Chen asked. About as well as expected. They're angry. Confused, scared, some of them, but I think we got our message across. The Valuran helped. That ancient species has seen this before, apparently. Good. Let them be angry. Let them be scared. As long as they understand that our children are off limits, I don't care what they think of us. There will be political consequences, Catherine. Sanctions, probably. Trade restrictions. Let them try, Chen said with confidence. Humanity survived and thrived alone for thousands of years. We can do it again if we have to, but I don't think it will. Human ships were already off limits for pirates. Humans hunted pirates with dedication that bordered on obsession. Now, human children became the most protected beings in the galaxy. No one wanted to be the next Krillian syndicate. The Galactic Council eventually issued a formal reprimand to humanity. Trade sanctions were discussed but never implemented. Too many species relied on human goods, human technology, human expertise. Instead, the Council issued a new directive. Juvenile humans were to be given special protected status. Any harm to human offspring would be considered an act of war. It was exactly what humanity wanted. Lu had pushed for that language, and the Council, after seeing what happened to the Krillians, agreed. On Earth, the rescued children slowly returned to normal life. They had counseling. They had support. Some struggled more than others, but they all had something precious. They had their families. They had their homes. They had the knowledge that when they'd been in danger, their entire species had mobilized to save them. Sarah Chen stood with her parents on the observation deck of their colony station, watching ships come and go. Tommy was playing nearby with friends. Her father stood beside her, an arm around her shoulders. Are you okay, sweetheart? He asked quietly. Yeah, Sarah said. I am, thanks to the fleet. Thanks to everyone who came for us. I'm so proud of you, her father said. The way you handled things, the beacon. Taking care of Tommy. You were amazing. Sarah leaned into him. I was so scared, Dad, but I knew you'd come. I knew someone would come because that's what humans do. We protect each other. Always, her father promised. Always. In the distance, a military patrol passed by the station. Sarah watched them go and felt safe. The galaxy had learned something important. Humanity had taught them all a lesson. Don't touch the children. Never ever touch the children. 1 year had passed since the incident. The galaxy had changed in ways both subtle and obvious. Humanity had changed, too. On the colony world of New Terra, Sarah Chen walked through the corridors of her new school. It was everything her parents had hoped for when they'd first sent her on that transport. Advanced science labs, experienced teachers, students from across human space. She was learning things she could never have learned on her frontier colony. But she was different now. All 23 of them were different. Sarah, wait up. Marcus jogged To catch up with her, his backpack bouncing. He'd grown taller over the year, his voice deeper. At 13 now, he was starting to look more like a man than a boy. "Hey," Sarah said, smiling. "Ready for the presentation?" "As ready as I'll ever be," Marcus said. "It's weird, you know, talking about what happened." Two aliens, they were heading to a special assembly. Representatives from a dozen alien species were visiting the school, part of a new galactic council program. Cultural exchange, they called it. But Sarah knew what it really was. The aliens were trying to understand humans better, trying to make sure nothing like last year ever happened again. The auditorium was packed. Human students sat in rows, excited and nervous. At the front, several aliens sat on a raised platform. Sarah recognized some of the species. A Valerian, a mantis-like thrick. Even a reformed Krillian who'd spoken out against his own people's actions. Principal Davis, a kind woman who'd made sure all the rescued children got special support, stepped up to the podium. "Welcome everyone. Today is special because we have survivors of last year's incident here to speak. Sarah Chen and Marcus Rivera have volunteered to share their experience. Let's give them our attention and our respect." Applause filled the room. Sarah and Marcus walked to the front. Sarah's hands were shaking, but she took a breath and steadied herself. She'd faced worse than public speaking. "Thank you for having us," Sarah began. "I'm going to tell you what happened, but not to make anyone uncomfortable. I'm telling you so everyone understands. So this never happens to anyone else, human or alien." She explained the capture, the cages, the fear. Marcus talked about how the older kids tried to protect the younger ones, how they'd sung songs to stay brave, how they'd believed help would come. And it did. Sarah said, "The military found us in less than 2 days. They broke into the station and got us out. Not one of us was seriously hurt. Not one of us was left behind." A Krillian student, one of the few in the school carefully selected for the exchange program, raised his hand. "I'm sorry for what my people did. But I need to ask, why did your military destroy so many ships? My people say over 3,000 died. Couldn't they have just negotiated?" Sarah looked at the Krillian student. He seemed genuinely confused. "They tried. Admiral Chen gave your people 5 minutes to return us. They refused and fired on the fleet. But even before that, negotiation wasn't really an option." "Why not?" "Because we were children," Sarah said simply. "Human children, and humans don't negotiate when their children are in danger. They act immediately. Overwhelming force. Whatever it takes." A Valen representative spoke up, its ancient voice carrying across the auditorium. "Young Sarah speaks truth. Humans are one of the few species that evolved with extreme parental protection. Do you know why?" Students shook their heads. The Valerian continued. "Because human offspring are helpless for many years. They cannot walk at birth. Cannot feed themselves. Cannot survive without constant care. So evolution made human adults fiercely protective. Those who protected their young survived. Those who didn't died out. Humanity exists today because your ancestors were willing to die and kill for their children. It's not just biological," Marcus added. "It's cultural, too. We're taught from birth that children are precious. All children. When you hurt a human child, you're not just attacking one person. You're attacking something every human holds sacred." A Thix representative clicked its mandibles. Thoughtfully. This is what the council failed to understand. We thought you would negotiate, file complaints, seek diplomatic solutions. Instead, you mobilized for war within hours. It was unprecedented. Principal Davis stepped forward. And now it's doctrine. The galaxy learned something last year. Human children are off limits. But it's more than that. Other species are starting to rethink how they treat their own young. That was true. Sarah had read the reports. Some alien species with weak parental bonds were starting programs to care for their offspring more actively. Not because they'd developed emotions about it, but because they'd seen the advantage humans had. Protected, nurtured children grew into stronger adults. It was simple survival strategy, but it was changing alien cultures. There's something else, Sarah said. Something the Krillians didn't understand. When they captured us, they thought they were just taking specimens, research subjects, but they weren't. They were taking someone's daughter. Someone's son, someone's little brother. We weren't specimens. We were people. We were loved. She felt tears in her eyes, but pushed through. My little brother, Tommy, was 5 years old. He was scared. And confused. He didn't understand why strange aliens were putting him in a cage. I held him and promised him we'd be okay. And we were because our people came for us. Marcus nodded. Every single adult human when they heard what happened reacted the same way. Military personnel canceled leave. Civilians volunteered to help search. People who'd never met us demanded our rescue. That's what being human means. We protect our own, especially the young ones. A human student in the audience raised her hand. How did you stay so brave? I would have been terrified. We were terrified, Sarah admitted. But we had each other. The older kids took care of the younger ones. We sang songs, told stories. Reminded each other that someone was coming, and that hope kept us going. The assembly continued for another hour. Questions were asked, answers were given. The alien representatives took extensive notes. This wasn't just cultural exchange. This was education. The galaxy learning about humanity's deepest instincts. After the assembly, Sarah and Marcus were approached by the Valuran representative. Up close, the ancient alien was even more impressive. Its tentacles moved with deliberate grace, its many eyes wise and kind. You spoke well, young ones, the Valyrian said. Your species is fortunate to have such brave children. Thank you, Sarah said. Can I ask you something? You mentioned another species that protected their young like humans do. What happened to them? The Valyrian's expression shifted. Sadness maybe. They thrived for millions of years, longer than most species survive. They explored thousands of worlds, built magnificent civilizations. And it all happened because they valued their offspring above all else. When their son died, they fought to the very end to save their children. They succeeded. The children escaped in generationships. The adults stayed behind and died, but they died knowing their young would survive. Where are those children now? Marcus asked. Gone into the deep galaxy. Perhaps they still live out there, transformed by time. Perhaps not. But they were given a chance because adults sacrificed for them, just as your Admiral Chen was willing to sacrifice for you. Sarah thought about that. She came for us even though we were strangers to her. Because you were children, the Valyrian said. And humans don't need to know a child personally to protect them. They protect all children. It's beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. Months passed. The galaxy continued to adapt to humanity's presence. Trade increased. Diplomatic relations strengthened, but everyone remembered the lesson. Some species tested it in small ways. A pirate crew, new to the frontier, didn't believe the stories. They attacked a human mining colony, thinking it would be an easy target. The colony had only a small security force and several dozen families with children. The pirates boarded the colony station, demanding valuables. They made a critical mistake. They threatened a child, held a weapon near a little boy while his mother watched. The security forces, untrained and poorly equipped, threw themselves at the pirates with suicidal fury. Every miner, every worker, every adult on the station grabbed whatever weapon they could find and fought back. Not tactically, not carefully. With pure, desperate rage. 3 pirates died in the first 30 seconds. The others tried to retreat to their ship. Too late. A human patrol ship had picked up the distress signal and jumped in. The patrol ship was small, just a corvette with light weapons. It didn't matter. The corvette destroyed the pirate vessel in one pass. No warning, no negotiation. The pirates in the station were hunted down by the colonists themselves. By the time the patrol ship's marines arrived, the situation was over. Pirates dead or captured, 1 colonist injured, the child safe. The patrol captain's report was simple. Pirates threatened a human child. Standard protocol followed. No further action required. Standard protocol. That's what it had become. You threaten a human child, you die. Simple, clear. Universal. The story spread through criminal networks faster than light. Human ships were already avoided by smart pirates. Now human colonies were too. Not worth the risk. Not worth the absolute certainty of violent retaliation. But it wasn't just criminals learning the lesson. Legitimate species were learning, too. A trade dispute arose between humanity and the Zeltran Confederacy over shipping routes. The Zeltrans tried to pressure humans by threatening to block access to certain stations. The human response was measured, but firm. Do what you need to do. But know this, we have 3 colony ships full of children scheduled to pass through that sector next month. If anything happens to those ships, we will hold you personally responsible. The Zeltrans immediately backed down. The dispute was resolved through negotiation. The colony ships passed through without incident. The Zeltrans had learned it wasn't worth making enemies of a species that would burn your entire civilization down for threatening their young. On Earth in Solar Defense Command, Admiral Chen sat in her office reviewing reports. A year of peace. Real peace. No incidents, no attacks on human civilians. Crime against humans was at an all-time low across the galaxy. Ambassador Lu called in on the secure channel. Catherine. Have you seen the latest council reports? Just reading them now, Chen said. Interesting numbers. Attacks on human vessels are down 97%. Kidnappings are 0. Even minor crimes against humans have dropped significantly. The galaxy has collectively decided we're too much trouble to mess with. Good, Chen said. That was the point. There's more. Several species are requesting human security advisors. They want to learn our protection protocols. And Lu paused. 3 species have asked for human teachers to work in their schools, specifically to teach their young. Chen looked up, surprised. They want humans around their offspring. Species that barely acknowledge their young want us to teach them. I think it's more than that, Lou said thoughtfully. They've seen how we value children, how we nurture them, and they're wondering if maybe they've been doing it wrong all these millennia. The Antaran Collective specifically cited how human children develop strong social bonds and emotional intelligence. They want their young to have those traits. Are we going to do it? I think we should carefully with protocols. But yes, if we can help other species care for their children better, isn't that worthwhile? Chen nodded slowly. It is. Send me the details. We'll put together a program. The years continued to pass. Human influence in the galaxy grew. Not through military might, though everyone knew humans had that. Not through economic power, though humanity traded extensively. Through something simpler. Through how humans treated their young, alien species started copying human child-rearing practices. Daycare centers appeared on alien worlds. Schools became more nurturing. Parents who'd once abandoned eggs now stayed to raise their offspring. Not all species, not everywhere, but it was spreading. The Valyrian watched this shift and was pleased. They'd seen it before millennia ago. A species that valued its young became a species that changed the galaxy. Not through conquest. Through example, Sarah Chen graduated from school with honors. She decided to study xenobiology. Wanting to understand the aliens who'd once caged her, not with hatred, with curiosity. If she could help humans and aliens understand each other better, maybe incidents like hers would never happen again. Marcus became a pilot, joining the merchant marines. He wanted to travel the galaxy, see new worlds, but he also trained in combat just in case. He remembered being helpless in that cage. He'd never be helpless again. Tommy, now 10 years old, barely remembered the kidnapping. Sarah had made sure of that. She'd protected his memories, helped him heal, made sure he grew up feeling safe. That was her job as a big sister. That was every human's job with every child. On the anniversary of the rescue, a memorial was unveiled on Luna. A simple monument with 23 names carved into metal. Below the names, an inscription. We came for them. We will always come. This is humanity's promise. Representatives from across the galaxy attended the ceremony. Even a Krillian delegation came, laying flowers and offering apologies. The Krillian syndicate was gone, destroyed by human action and galactic sanction. The new Krillian government was different. Better, they'd learned. Admiral Chen spoke at the ceremony. She was older now, gray in her hair, but her voice was still strong. 1 year ago, 23 children were taken. Today they're all thriving. Going to school, playing with friends, living normal lives. That's what we fought for. Not vengeance, not glory, just the simple right of children to be safe. She looked at the memorial, then at the crowd. This monument isn't just for those 23. It's a reminder. To us, to the galaxy. Children are precious. All children. Human children. Alien children. Any child in danger deserves protection. That's the lesson we taught. That's the lesson I hope we'll never need to teach again. The crowd was silent. Then slowly, applause began. Human and alien hands clapping together. Species that had once questioned humanity's response now understood, now respected. That evening, Sarah visited the memorial alone. She traced her name with her fingers, remembering that scared 14-year-old girl in the cage. She was 17 now, stronger, different. Thank you, she whispered to the memorial, to all the people who'd come for her. Thank you for caring, for fighting, for showing me what it means to be human. She heard footsteps behind her. Admiral Chen approached carrying flowers. Mind if I join you? Chen asked. Of course not, Admiral. They stood together in silence for a moment. Then Chen spoke. How are you doing, really? Good, Sarah said. Honestly. I still have nightmares sometimes. But they're getting less frequent. And I have support. Family, friends, counselors. Everyone wants to make sure we're okay. That's good. That's important. Chen placed her flowers at the base of the memorial. You know, after it happened, some people asked me if it was worth it. 3 lives lost in the rescue. Thousands of enemies killed. A diplomatic incident that lasted months. All for 23 children. What did you tell them? Chen smiled. I told them that those 3 who died in the rescue were someone's children, too. And yes, it was worth it every time. Every single time. Because that's who humans are. We protect our own. Sarah nodded. She understood that now in a way she couldn't have before. Being captured had taught her something important. Humanity wasn't just individuals. It was a family, a species-wide family that looked after its members, especially the young ones. The galaxy is different now, Sarah said. Because of what happened to us. It is, Chen agreed. Safer, at least for children. Other species are learning to value their young. Some are even asking humans to help them become better parents. That's a change I never expected. Do you think it will last? The peace, Chen considered. As long as everyone remembers the lesson. As long as they understand that human children are untouchable and that humans will move the stars themselves to protect them the moment someone forget. She shrugged. We'll teach the lesson again. As many times as necessary. Sarah looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there were billions of aliens, thousands of species, countless civilizations, and every single one of them knew about the 23 children who'd been taken in the fleet that came for them. I hope they remember, Sarah said softly. I hope no one ever has to go through what we did. They will, Chen said with certainty. Because humans will make sure they remember. That's our promise. That's our duty. The children are safe. All of them. Always. They stood together at the memorial as Earth's sun set behind them, casting long shadows across the names carved in metal. 23 names. 23 lives saved. 23 reasons why humanity would never compromise on protecting its young. The galaxy had learned touch human children and humanity would come for you. Not with negotiations, not with diplomacy. With everything they had. With fire and fury and absolute determination. It was a simple lesson. One that would be taught in alien schools for generations. One that would shape galactic policy for centuries. One that would keep children safe across the stars. The lesson was this. Humanity protects its children always forever. Without exception.